All right, thank you, everybody. I just want to, start today with giving again a shout out to Stephen and Rosanna. They were incredible. Hope you all enjoyed it very much. Rosanna is absolutely. She wears her sunglasses inside because she is a star. So,
Absolutely.
speaking of stars, I wanted to introduce our guest speaker for this session, Franz Pasha. Franz is the SVP of Corporate Affairs at PayPal, has just an incredible, no pun intended, wealth of experience when it comes to the corporate affairs side of the business and building culture within organizations. The main topic that we're talking about today, Franz, is really people. Right. I know the title of our panel is about people. We talk about people in the description, but I think now more than ever is really a time when, aside from say products, technology, finance, etc., talking about the humanity aspect seems very important right now in the context of everything going on in 2020. So I think it's a great conversation to have. I'm incredibly excited about the topic for today. So again, just thank you for joining.
Oh, pleasure. Really a pleasure to be part of this.
So to kick off, really want to take a look back a little bit. Now PayPal, I think, well known within the industry for having a very meteoric rise to growth and scalability, and really just a well-known organization in general. Acquired by eBay in 2001, 2002, and then I believe you joined just prior to PayPal's split from eBay around That's 2015. Right. So I'm curious to learn a little bit more about what you were coming into. What was the culture you were coming into, and some of the primary the real priorities that you were thinking about as you came into that new organization.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Yes, I came into PayPal to join Dan Schulman, who had come in to serve as the CEO for the independent PayPal that we spun out of eBay in July 2015. And I came in to lead the corporate affairs function, which is a different way of thinking about stakeholder engagement and communications. And I think we can dig into that a little later. But one of the first things we had to really get our minds around was what was PayPal going to stand for? What would the new PayPal feel like? What would be our position in the world? How would we draw on the culture that existed, but also create a culture that could really fulfill the potential of what we understood was a tremendous engine for bringing underserved populations of people into the financial system, and that we had the capability as a company to take our core competence in moving and managing money digitally and use it as a powerful engine to build financial health and to enable the democratization of financial services here in the US and all around the world. And what we set out, we created a new mission for PayPal that put at the heart of it that central purpose of democratizing financial services and serving underserved populations. And we also moved from a conversation about financial inclusion, which is really about access, to a conversation about financial health. And it was a conversation that we really felt was important, that it was not just enough to have access, but you also had the ability to have affordable, safe, and secure financial services that would help to empower small businesses, that would help to enable families to improve their financial health and be able to expand their economic opportunities. And we also understood that we had to have values that would reinforce the mission, and that our mission needed to reinforce the values. So it was a unique opportunity, actually, to think through the intersection of mission, vision, and values, and how to create mutually enforcing principles. So if you think about democratizing financial services, it's a very inclusive mission. Everybody can be involved. And so we put as our first core value inclusion. and that addressed the way we wanted to live as a company internally around inclusion and diversity and empowering all voices and all people in our company, and also how we would live externally. Our second core value was, of course, innovation. We're a tech company at our roots, but also how we could innovate at scale and improve the ecosystem for our customers and our products and services to serve the mission. Our third value is collaboration, how we work together, and that also is an internal and an external value, how we partner in the ecosystem with other companies, but also with governments and nonprofits. And our fourth was wellness. And we expanded the sense of wellness that we wanted to embody to include financial wellness and the way in which we take care of each other as a team and also internally, but also how we think about the wellness of our customers externally. So that was a great opportunity, and the employees of the company participated. The leadership team was unified, and we really, in those first few months, went out to the world in a very different way than I think PayPal had shown up prior to that.
Did you face any challenges either then or now when it comes to justifying an ideology like that? It's really a thought about brand purpose. We hear a lot about technology and about product being prioritized, sometimes about customers. A lot of that discussion within the space, it sounds like you went for a bit more of a holistic approach, which requires a level of trust and confidence on what the outcomes are going to be of that approach. So can you talk to us a little bit about, did you face any initial challenges with that in terms of justifying that idea?
There are of course challenges in bringing people together around a sense of shared values and shared purpose. But one of the things that was, unusual, I think, during that period for us is that the teams that were developing the business strategy for the company, really put purpose at the heart of the matter. And we had this very unified view that we could grow and we could serve our customers well, and at the same time serve a purpose that was reinforced by the public interest and where we could support the public interest. And so if you think about how you grow at scale as a payments platform, you are reaching out to populations around the world who haven't been served well by the current financial system. So for us, the purpose and profit was wrapped together in the strategy of the company. And I think that enables you to open and expand a license to operate and to serve multiple stakeholders. And I think from the very beginning, we understood that we had a group of stakeholders and we needed to serve all of them. We put employees first as our primary stakeholder. We have our customers, of course, are a vibrant and vital stakeholder. For us, governments and public policy makers and regulators are stakeholders. We're regulated all over the world, and we work with governments and regulators. And of course, our investors and shareholders. And finally, I think, society at large and our communities. So with those 5 stakeholder groups, we found that we could balance that and serve those stakeholders in a way that was, again, mutually reinforcing and creating value across that spectrum.
And what are some examples of that in terms of, well, I guess, let me take a step back for a moment. If you could explain, you're talking about this idea of basing the business and around stakeholders, right? So if you could talk a little bit, you mentioned to me the idea of stakeholder capitalism before. Can you explain just kind of a brief idea of sort of really what that means or what the value is that's the outcome of that?
Yeah. I mean, this is a really vibrant discussion taking place right now among many, many companies and also in the public-private dialogue. And it really is a function of, companies like ours moving beyond what was Milton Friedman's notion that held true for many years for many companies, that the sole focus needed to be on profits for shareholders. And I think we've really worked hard to go beyond that and to understand that we can create profits for shareholders while also serving and creating value for our other stakeholders. And that, in fact, it is great for our shareholders if we are serving and creating value for our employees, our customers, the governments and policymakers, as I mentioned, and also for our communities. And so, and we've gone a little further than that and said, look, employees will come first, and that ultimately, for every company, employees are your greatest resource. And if we're going to succeed in serving all of our stakeholders and growing as a company, our employees have to come first. And so we've really, as we've ordered our thinking and when we have to make big decisions or take a stand, we really think about our employees as our first stakeholder.
That's interesting. And bringing that into 2020, and the challenges that everybody and businesses, individuals have faced, what are some examples of how that stakeholder capitalism and that employee first type of strategy has translated into actions from your team?
Yeah. Well, let me bring it back maybe to last year and then sort of bring it forward to what we've been all experiencing over the last few months. So we had, as I mentioned, when we thought about our mission, we were really focusing on how we could make it more affordable and safer and easier for our customers all over the world to have access to financial services, to move and manage money, to help improve their financial health. Because we knew that, increasingly people are spending more and more money on financial services in a world where it really shouldn't be that way, that there should be many other solutions. And that financial health was the underpinning of a lot of the issues that societies are facing around economic inequality, the kind of deep schisms that are opened up through those tensions and dynamics in communities, and that we had something we could do about it. And so we were really focused on that issue. And then we realized that as we looked at the data and understood how many people were living paycheck to paycheck in the US in particular, and then also in other countries in which we serve, that we needed to also take a hard look at how our employees were faring in the difficult economic conditions that have existed all around the world. And when we studied that, we realized that while we were paying at market or above market in every market, our employees were struggling, that there were a good portion of our employees, some of our entry-level employees in operations and our call centers and in other parts of our company were struggling to make ends meet, and that we needed to do something about it, that we had to walk the talk internally and externally. So our leadership team and Dan Schulman has been very passionate about these issues from throughout his career, but at PayPal he's really put a huge amount of focus on this and passion and energy. And we addressed it internally with an employee financial wellness program where we made sure that every employee of the company had stock and could grow their savings and grow with the company. We changed wage structures where we felt that there was not enough net disposable income for our employees, where they would be able to have earnings and capabilities that go beyond just managing month to month. We also changed the cost of healthcare for many of our employees, which was a huge change in terms of enabling our employees to have more disposable income, but also to be able to take on more forms of financial security. And then we wrapped it all in an education program, a financial security and wellness education program. It was a big moment for us as a company, and it also, for our employees and our leadership team, and really, I think our customers and partners, it also showed we were prepared to look hard inside and make sure that we were living up to our values and our ideals. When we came into the pandemic and when COVID-19 really it turned all of us upside down, we focused first on our employees and making sure that we had safety and security for our employees, and that we could enable a transition to working from home, that we could make sure that our employees were settled. And then, of course, we looked at how we could help our customers. So if you take that stakeholder approach, the next you have to think about in a crisis situation, the way things were at the beginning of the pandemic, how do we make sure we can do what we're best able to do for all of our stakeholders? So we focused on customer relief and how we could work with the customers who had PayPal working capital and who needed a break. We focused on what we could do for consumers who were just coming on to PayPal and digital services for the first time. How could we make it easier? How could we provide assistance to our partners and our customers? And then we reached out to governments and to regulators and said, what, we have these capabilities, how can we help? And we ended up working on the PPP program, on the stimulus checks. And again, also, reaching out to nonprofits and engaging in relief. We have the largest donation platform, I think, in the world, and billions of dollars were given to pandemic causes and relief organizations over the last several months, and we initiated campaigns all over the world, again, taking those core capabilities and understanding what we have to contribute. And I think it's also given us as a company and our employees a sense, we feel very fortunate that we were in a position to try to help. And it's been a real, I think, for our employees, a large part of the experience of how we live our values.
That's really great to hear, and I'm curious on how that approach. So a lot of that sounds like absolutely the right thing to do, right? The right thing to do to take care of your employees, take care of your customers, your other stakeholders as well. What I'm curious about is how that ties in to the other business priorities, maybe the justification of it, or really how you measure the outcomes of a philosophy like that. Right. It obviously takes more than just the idea. It takes investment of time and resources into seeing that those ideas come to fruition into real action. Again, how do you measure the benefits, or what benefits have you seen for PayPal?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of benefits across the spectrum for being a company that stands for something. You see it in the way in which our employees care about the future of the company, in the way they mobilize around the mission, how they seek to serve our customers, how we function as teams. We see it in the way our customers interact with PayPal. We know that trust is a very important aspect for customers, and that brands that stand for something make a difference to customers. We see it in the way we can engage with governments and with relief organizations and nonprofits and regulators. So it really is consistent with the type of platform we are, in that we are inclusive and seek to partner across the ecosystem, and also with the nonprofit world and with the public sector. So I think of course, there are always choices that one has to make, and there are hard decisions to make, but we've tried very hard to keep this in harmony so that we can serve that whole spectrum of stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Franz. That's it's really interesting, again, to hear more about PayPal's strategy, especially how how you've taken action in the context of what's been going on this year. So for everybody that's interested in this topic, I really invite you to go check out what PayPal is doing. Check out their programs, whether you're a consumer, whether you work in government, you're an employee of PayPal, any of the above. I think it's a really terrific what that team is doing over there. So definitely check it out. But yeah, at this point, I know we're at time. So I wanted to thank you, Franz, for joining us today, for sharing.
Thanks so much.
And your story.
Really appreciate the conversation and a chance to share some thoughts with all of you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ray and Ryan to take it from here. Cheers, everybody.